During my childhood, I was a prisoner of the Old and New West. My clan inhabited these two quarters with a mixture of stubbornness and self-assurance, turning them into a ghetto it viewed as its fief. I remained shut up in this precinct of the property without knowing any other. As for the poor, they existed only as beggars for rich children my age. It was a great step forward in my knowledge when I first realized what poverty lies in the disgrace of poorly paid work. That came with a little piece of writing, perhaps the first I penned just for myself. It concerned a man who hands out leaflets, and the humiliations he receives from a public whom his leaflets do not interest. Finally, and this is how I ended it, the poor man secretly throws away his whole packet. Doubtless the least fruitful resolution, but in those days no form of revolt came to mind other than sabotage, this admittedly being part and parcel of my own experience. It was what I fell back on when I wanted to escape my mother. Most eagerly when we were out running errands, and then with a heartless insistence which often drove her to her wits' end, for I had taken up the habit of always keeping half a step behind her. It seemed as if I would not for anything make a common front, not even with her. Later, when the urban labyrinth first opened itself to my sex drive, I was to learn how much I owed to this dreamy resistance during our walks through the city. Its first gropings did not aim for the body, but the thoroughly depraved psyche whose wings would be shining putridly in the reflection of a gas lantern where we're still folded up, asleep, inside the fur coat in which she was bundled. On such occasions I was stood in good stead by a kind of looking that did not seem to see a third of what it actually took in. And even as my mother scolded me for my moodiness and drowsy pace, I was already faintly aware that someday I just might escape her rule by allying myself with these streets, where I did not seem to know the way. At any rate, there can be no doubt that a desire, deceptive alas, to renounce her as well as her class and my own, was to blame for the matchless attraction which accosting a whore in the street later held for me. Hours might go by before it finally happened. The dread I felt was the same an automaton would have filled me with, one of those a single question is supposed to be enough to set in motion. And so I'd throw my voice through the slot. Then the blood would beat in my ears, and I was not able to pick up the words which fell right in front of me from the heavily made-up mouth. I would run away, only to repeat my daredevil stunt who knows how many times that same night. When I stopped in the recess of some entrance, possibly towards dawn, I had gotten myself hopelessly tangled in the asphalt ribbons of the street, and it was not the cleanest of hands which set me free.